What is the next step? Well, if you guys haven't noticed lately, the quality of my episodes have been lower. And to be honest, I was unsure why. I don't really know exactly why they're lower all of a sudden now, 85 episodes in, especially since they were on a steady incline my entire time recording episodes for the past 80 days. But what I discovered is that I am not taking enough rest days. I'm not taking any rest days, actually. And I first learned about this in a book called 10x is Easier Than 2x. And in there, I learned about you should focus on quality over quantity. But then in the next book that I read called Create, Don't Capture, he said quality over quantity, but quantity leads to quality, but quality quantity is the best. So what that means is basically quality is better than quantity, but and I'm talking about content creation. So my podcast, for example. It's better to have higher quality podcasts than to have a lot of podcasts. But having a lot of practice, like i.e. high quantity, like what I'm doing 1 hour every day, having a lot of practice leads to higher quality. And the end result, high quality with a lot of quantity, is the best. So high quantity, high quality, in high quality. And I learned about that in 10X and Create, Don't Capture. And I was reading those two books over the past week, a little bit over a week. And I finished them both, but I realized that I need to improve my quality. So for this past week, I realized that I'm not improving my quality much, and I have to make some drastic changes in order to actually do that. Some things that I need to start doing are taking rest days, because in one of the chapters on 10X, he said there's 3 types of days you should have in your schedule: focus days, buffer days, and rest days. Essentially, focus days are your work days. So it's days that I'm recording, which for me is every single day. Every single day is a focus day because I record every single day. But you also need buffer days, which are days to prepare for your recording or your work. And in the acting business, focus days would be the day of the show. And then buffer days would be practice days, like days when you're rehearsing and practicing. But then you also need a third type of day, which is rest day. On rest days, you do absolutely nothing. You just rest and you regain you just rest up. And it's extremely good because I also learned about that I knew that it was important from reading it in 10X, but then I also read it again in Create, Don't Capture, like rest days. The guy, Eric Thane, who wrote Create, Don't Capture, actually, he knows how valuable rest days are, and like days where you're just doing nothing and just recharging and refueling. He knows how valuable they are to the point where after a business conference, Funnel Hacking Live, the same business conference I went to, but he went the year before. I'm talking about the year before. So 2022 Funnel Hacking Live. He went there and then he went straight to a cruise for 4 days. And what he was doing on the cruise the entire time was just thinking, and he was in silence the whole time. Just thinking and deep in his books or deep in his journal. I don't think he was even in books. He was just thinking the whole time, just recharging and resting. And he told me that story at Funnel Hacking Live because he was speaking when I went in 2023. He told the story, and I wrote down in my journal, I want to do that. Like, I want to take a cruise and just be in deep thought the whole time and not even get off the boat. Just literally stay on the boat the entire time and just be in deep thought. And then I learned more in 10x is easier than 2x. Pretty much the way I read books is I don't get the most out of it. I get one thing and I apply that one thing or two things. And pretty much the thing that I got out of 10x is I got so much out of it, but the two things that I'm actually like taking action on are I have to improve the quality over quantity, and I have to incorporate rest days, buffer days, and focus days. And the way that I plan on doing that right now is I'm going to be having my entire week, Monday through Friday, rest/buffer days, where I'm just studying. I literally just read my books all day, study all day, read all day, and then I consolidate all of the notes that I take from reading into 7 episodes worth of notes. And that will be 7 hours worth of content. And I record all of that on the weekend. 4 hours on Saturday and 3 hours on Sunday. And that will be those two will be my focus days. And this will improve my quality as well. So this will improve my quality and the fact that I need rest days. And it'll improve my quality because I'll have a lot more time, bulk time, to do the same things. And this is another thing I learned in the 4-hour work week, and then it continued on 10x is easier than 2x, where you should batch your schedule. So pretty much if you have meetings, then you should have one day of the week dedicated to meetings. Or if you go on your phone or you go on your email, then you should have one day of the week or one specific time at the end of the day to check your phone or check your emails. And for a long time, that's what I did. I only checked my phone after every single podcast every day. For a few weeks I did that, maybe even months. And I would only check my email after every podcast. But lately I haven't even been checking my phone or my email because it's just I'm not having enough time to do that. And to be honest, I haven't found any value in doing either at all. So I just don't do it that much. And the reasoning behind it is extremely bad for our focus to switch back and forth between tasks. Like working deep work on your work, like your priorities, like your main business, your 20% tasks. If you're in deep work on that and then you switch to go check your phone or you switch to go into a meeting and then you switch back, it just doesn't work. And so that's why you have to have entire days dedicated to just one thing. And that's also what I'm going to be doing. I'll dedicate my entire week to just creating episode notes. I'm just going to dedicate 5 days of my week to creating episode notes so I can have somewhat of a structure during my episodes, my shows. Because there's one thing that I don't like about my episodes. And I was telling my friend about this today. I don't plan the episodes out, and as a result, I bounce back and forth between ideas. And I'm sure you guys have definitely noticed this. Like I start going on one idea, and then I bounce to a different idea, and then I go back to the original idea, and then it's just crazy. It's hard to follow, and to be honest, I don't think that it's good content. It's not high quality. So what I realized is I have to improve that by adding somewhat of a structure. I'm not going to script out the episode, but I'm going to have a structure. For example, in my Transurfing Principles episodes, like yesterday's episode was the last Transurfing Principles episode for now. And those are like structured because I write like 5 pages worth of notes just to talk about all those 5 pages. And that's what I'm probably not going to write 5 pages worth of notes on all of my things. Like over the past 2 days, I've been doing a just basic structuring, just extremely basic. Like today's notes, which I'm going to get into later on in this episode, is I want to talk about spirituality and how that's the next step for me. But before, I want to tell you guys more about this. So we've discussed 10x and how you should structure a week, and that's what I'm going to do. These are the next steps in my progress. Structuring my week to just study all week, and then on the weekends I record. And this will give me a lot of rest and time to recover from the creative side, because you can't just crank out episodes like daily. That's what I've come to realize. And the way I plan on doing this, I plan on dedicating my entire weekend. Like, I'm not going to go to the gym at all on the weekends anymore once I implement this schedule. The only thing I'm going to be doing over the weekend is record and meditate. I'm literally just going to wake up, do my morning routine, and then literally I'm probably going to read for like a little bit in the morning, because I don't want to record like right away at the brink of dawn because my family is still asleep. But pretty much I wake up and then read, do my normal routine. Like my morning routine has reading in it. So I wake up, do my morning routine. And then eventually, once like my family is all settled, like awoken, then I will meditate. First thing, I'll meditate, and then I will record the first episode, and then I'll come back upstairs, meditate, record. And I'm just going to go back and forth, meditate, record, and I'll do this for 4 episodes on Saturday and 3 episodes on Sunday. That's going to be my entire weekend. Meditate and record. I'll probably I'll wake up, do my meditation in the morning, and then I'll meditate before the first, and then I'll meditate for the second, third, fourth. And then I'll probably get 6 meditations in on Saturday, which will be the most that I've ever done. I don't know how I'll feel after that. I don't know what to expect, but that's what I'm going to do. And again, this may change, and it probably will change. Like my plans will probably change, because I'm probably not going to be able to implement this fully. Like I'm probably not going to be able to fully dive into this until I'm graduated, which is in 2 months. Today is, when I record this episode, it's Tuesday, October 10th. So I believe that this episode will go live, or will post on Tuesday, October 17th. So around about a month, because I graduate probably on like December 20th. So around 2 months, I'll graduate, and then I'll have my entire schedule freed up just for this. Like I'm literally just going to dedicate myself entirely to 2 things, or 3 things actually. Building myself through expanding my knowledge base, like studying a lot, and meditating. That will be, and like building my spirituality through meditating, as well as reading books about spirituality. And then the third thing is documenting my journey, and which is building my channel, building my channel, because that's all I'm focusing on. Like I decided to get into entrepreneurship over summer, probably 4 months ago is when I decided to get into business. But I did not expect I thought that I was just going to be focusing on business and like figuring out business strategies and tactics. But what I'm extremely grateful for is that I discovered that the billionaires of tomorrow are building their brands today. And what that means is tomorrow's billionaires, like the billionaires of the next decade, are all building their channel, building their content, building their influence right now. They're starting to build their channels and their social media and presence. And that's especially good because this will lead into a business opportunity. But the most important part of it is expanding my own development. It is developing myself. I'm developing myself through one, finding my voice, my purpose, and my my goal. That's finding my voice and my purpose through podcasting and recording TikToks. That's that. I'm documenting my journey. I'm teaching what I'm sharing at real time. So I'm strengthening my own knowledge as well through podcasting. And two, the way I get now, that's all I focus on. That's my entire job right now. That's the only thing I focus on. And then the rest of my time is dedicated 100% to studying and evolving my spirituality. Because over the past couple months, I don't know, you guys have definitely been able to tell that I'm kind of on the verge to discovering something. And over the past couple months, I've been talking a lot about worldview and how your thinking is the most, everything that goes on in your head is the biggest factor in determining your success or not. And that's why I've been getting into all of this stuff like mindset and worldview books, like Reality Transurfing and 10x is easier than 2x. But what it's led me down is a whole journey of realizing that my spirituality is the next phase of my life. So when I said, what is the next step in the beginning of this episode? The next step is me focusing 100% on my spiritual journey. Now let me explain, because probably a month ago or two, probably a month ago, I was researching Reality Transurfing because I wanted to learn more about it. And I was in the middle of my second time reading it. And then I found this one website called The Most Beautiful World, which led me down this whole reading list. It was called The Ultimate Reading List for Human Beings. And what I read on this reading list was basically a blog post. It was like an introduction, like a blog post, and then it was the reading list. And in that blog post, he basically hinted at that there's more to life and that you can discover the truth through reading, and that there's way more than we expected, that there's way more than we've been led to believe. Pretty much everything that I kind of had suspicions about from reading Transurfing, because once I read Transurfing, it opened the door of possibilities in my knowledge base to where I'm thinking, oh wow, there's way more, because I can now I can actually achieve things. I have a goal right now to move to Hawaii and become a surfer and have a yacht and own a beach, a private beach. That's my goal. That I never would have had a goal so ambitious 1 year ago. My most ambitious goal 1 year ago was probably, I don't even know. I think it was probably gaining 5 pounds on tricep push down or something like that. Something that I could achieve in literally 2 weeks. So this reading list, I read through the entire thing. It probably took I don't know how long, probably 20 minutes. I read through the entire page, and I realized that more than 3/4 of the books on that reading list, all the first 100 books on that reading list I had never even heard of before, and he was talking so highly of them. The first one, Die Wise, he said, this is the best book that I've ever read in my life. This is my most gifted book, and it's the book that you need to read right now today. And then another one, it was number 113, called Journeys Out of the Body. And he said, this is another book that the power that be does not want you to read. I have no idea what that means, but it interests me. And then he wrote a book. He read this entire reading list, went on an amazing road trip for 3 years around the Americas, all the way across the entire both North and South American continent. He went on a road trip and he wrote a book discussing everything that he learned from all the books as well as the road trip. And I bought that book. It's called Dancing After the Music Stops. And in the introduction, he placed a declassified CIA document about time travel in the intro to his book. That intrigued me, so I looked into that, and I actually printed out the entire document that it was taken from, which is called The Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process. So I printed that entire thing out, and I read it all in one weekend. And this was after I'd read Transurfing, so my worldview was already greatly expanded. More so, like my worldview was already more closer to the truth to the average person already. But this gateway, the analysis and assessment of the gateway process, literally just like 30 pages, absolutely like sparked something in me, because I realized that there's so much more, because literally every single thing that was written in that book was absolutely out of this world for me. Not the book, the gateway assessment, the document. So I did a deep dive on the Gateway Experience and the Monroe Institute, and I went through and found probably 10 documents, and I printed them all straight from my school printer at the school. But I printed them all, and I've only read about half of them. And there's one that is like 100+ pages long, called the seven Resonant Colors, which is I really want to read soon, but I simply just haven't prioritized it yet. And so I got into all this stuff, and then I started looking at the Gateway Experience, which is basically a meditative, guided meditation that uses certain sound waves at certain frequencies that can induce changes in the chemistry of your brain and can actually help you get into deeper levels of meditation that otherwise would not be accessible in such a short period of time. So I bought the first wave, which is wave 1, called Discovery, and it focuses on Focus 10, which is essentially mind awake, body asleep, which I initially interpreted that as sleep paralysis, because that's what I heard online. Sleep paralysis while your mind is awake. So that I spent an entire month just practicing the Focus 10. And then I realized, after reading another post online, that this one woman basically wrote about her experience. She described her experience about Focus 10, and her description was exactly the same. It was identical to my experience. And I thought that my experience was not deep enough. I thought that I needed to get it deeper before I moved on to Focus 12. When in reality, I was ready to move on to Focus 12. So 1 month into Focus 10, I practiced Focus 10 for 1 month. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I moved on to Wave 2. And so that's Focus 12. It's all about Focus 12. I am unsure if I've achieved Focus 12 yet. I believe I have, and there's many different things going on. First of all, I'm looking into a lot of other people's experiences. And so that's manipulating my expectations about what I should basically expect. But everyone's spiritual journey is different, and everyone's is unique to themselves. And so I read this in the same lady that described her Focus 10 experience. She kept on saying that do not have expectations, and also she kept saying that your experience is going to be different. So don't compare, don't have expectations that yours is going to be any different to mine. And also, your experience is going to be the best experience ever, because it's just that. It's your experience. Like, my experience is going to be better than her experience simply because it's my experience and it's my own journey. It's my soul's journey through spirituality. So ever since I read that post, literally like 4 hours ago, probably, during class, I read that today. And I decided that I was going to stop comparing myself or stop comparing or I decided I was going to stop looking at other people's experiences using the Gateway experience. And so as a result, now I'm just focusing on my own experience, and I'm going to decide that my own experience is exactly as it should be. But I want to tell you about the next books that I'm reading. One of the 7 books that I'm reading right now is called Journeys Out of the Body. It's by Robert Monroe, who is basically the person who popularized out-of-body experience, as well as he founded the Monroe Institute, which created the Gateway experience. And so I started reading literally just the author's note, just like the first couple pages of the book. And in it, he said, there was one thing that struck me, and he said that he was getting into his out-of-body experiences, and then instead of consciously controlling the situation and consciously controlling the journey, which he'd done before, and he got results, but he actually let go of the control and gave control to his higher self, which he said his soul, as a question mark in parentheses. So he gave control to his higher self, which is his soul, over his out-of-body experiences. And as a result, he had so much better experiences that he's ever had before. And over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be reading that book and learning and sharing all the things that I learn about. But that one thing that he said, I decided to implement it. And I have no idea how to go about releasing my control and giving control to my higher self. I have no idea how to go about that. But today, during my meditation right before this episode, instead of doing, because I'm on the tape 2 of Wave 2, which has 2 exercises, which is, the first one is patterning, 1 month patterning, which is all about manifestation. And I did that a few times because that's what I'm into. But I decided that I didn't really like the structure of it. I would rather have a free flow experience where I can structure the visualization myself. So then I moved on to the next exercise, which is called color breathing. And so I expected to get more Focus 12 experience, but instead it was all about you were just in Focus 10 the entire time. So it's kind of disappointing, but I decided to stick through it. It was a 35-minute meditation. And so I didn't get Focus 12, and I didn't really have the ability to release the control to my higher self. But I did try and do it with my Focus 10 experience, but it was just Focus 10. So I didn't really have that big of an experience. Plus, I realized that the importance of maintaining a consistent on the dot sleep schedule over the past, ever since I got home from Florida, I've been going to bed at 6:10 exactly. I would always look at the clock right before I go to bed, and it's 6:10 every single time. And as a result, I woke up at the same time. And then last night, I had a double episode, and I kind of had to stay on the recording a little bit longer. And so as a result, I went to bed at 6:28 instead. So it was 18 minutes past what I should have gone to bed at. And it not destroyed, but I definitely could tell the difference in my focus during my meditation just now, because I was kind of I was starting to fall asleep in my meditation. So that's why I'm also locking in on my maintaining my schedule exactly. Like at 4:45, I always go up. Because I'm in the basement recording and it's 3:56 right now. At 4:45, I always go upstairs, because then I start my nighttime routine, and I have this whole system to make sure I go to bed at the same time. But I want to talk about why did I get on this tangent? I was talking about Focus 12. So, giving my higher consciousness, or allowing my higher self to control the situation and releasing control to my higher self. And this leads me on to the whole point of this entire episode so far. I wrote down in my episode notes, the foundation is spirituality. And let me talk about that. I believe that my worldview is the foundation to my success. And as a result, I spent 2 months reading Reality Transurfing 2 times. So I probably read it for 4 months. And then I realized that there's more to it. I went on that whole deep dive on the Gateway Experience and this reading list for discovering the truth. And actually, the third book on that reading list, I believe it's the third, it's called Ascent of Humanity. And his description of it he said, this book lays out the foundation to how the world works. And this should be the first book you read to start to discover like the truth. So I don't know what the truth is. Like I told my friend George this morning, we were walking because I saw him in the morning right when I got to school. So we were walking to the cafeteria together because that's usually where we go before school. And he said he's 1 year younger than me, and he's just getting into reality transurfing. So he is just beginning his journey on discovering the truth. And he said that he instantly gains, like every time he's near me, he gains a brand new perspective on his surroundings. Because we were just walking through a huge crowd of people before school started. So we were walking through a huge crowd of high schoolers. And we were just walking there, and I was just present. I was focused. Like I am not as much as I'd hoped to be, but at that time I was present and I was focused. And he said, I instantly gain a new perspective when I'm near you. And I said, I don't remember how I responded, but the conversation led to me saying, I'm beginning to discover the truth. And don't ask me what the truth is because I have no idea. I have no idea. And I need to know the truth. Because when I'm reading just the introduction to Jean Pascal Reeman's book, Dancing After the Music Stops, the guy who compiled this reading list, when I'm reading the introduction to his book today, I read it for the second time. Just the intro. I've just read the intro so far. I have never read the whole book yet, but I read the intro 2 times. And in the intro, it sparked another fire in me because he knows all the things that I desire to know right now. So I'm believing that worldview is like the foundation. But I go one step further. I say spirituality is the foundation to my success, and worldview is just a piece in my spirituality. So this whole time I've just been focusing on one piece. I have been focusing on meditation, but not really the deep meditation that is accessible to everyone, but no one knows about. And it's Focus 12, Focus 15, Focus 21. All of the deep focus levels, as well as out-of-body experiences, astral projection. I don't know much about any of this stuff, but I desire to experience it all. And that is my journey on spirituality. That is why this next step, this next phase in my life is going to be dedicated entirely to growing my spirituality and entirely dedicated to mastering this stuff and documenting my entire journey. That is why I'm beginning to shift, make some big changes. I realized in my past, recently I read the book 10x is easier than 2x, and it talked about 10x jumps and basically making jumps of 10x. Like instead of incrementally improving yourself, you radically improve. And I've done that a few times in the past. For example, when I started reading. Another example, when I started lifting. I radically improved my life, and I radically took out a lot of different things. For example, I got rid of video games. I got rid of junk food. I got rid of TikTok, YouTube, social media, Snapchat. All of this stuff I got rid of because I made radical changes in my life. And as a result, I was able to radically improve my life and radically shift the course of events and my destiny. And I'm on the verge of another 10x jump. I'm not really sure my last 10x jump, but I'm on the verge of another one because I am beginning to look into all of this stuff. I'm beginning to radically shift my entire work week schedule, having 5 rest days an entire life. And I realized, an entire week, I realized that when I make big changes, like I made a big change to not go to college, to declare that I wasn't going to college, that improved so much. That improved my situation so much. And then I made another big change. I declared that I was going to I declared that I was going to graduate early. That was another big change that saved 5 months of my life. And then I made another big change. I declared that I was not only going to graduate early, I was also going to become a part-time student and have 4 classes in my entire day for my entire last semester of senior year, my last semester of high school. So I saved all that time, and that's because I made big changes. I remember my dad talking to me because this was in the period of time a couple months ago when I was actually starting to make these changes and go to email all these people to drop out of certain things and talk to my counselor and talk to my parents to get permission to do all this stuff. I remember my dad said, like, you're making big changes. Like, you are starting. I don't remember exactly what he said, and I regret. I'm going to probably ask him, but he basically said something like, he said, like, you're making big changes. And he was like applauding me for it because I'm making big changes and I'm starting to take control of my fate and my destiny and my life through making big changes. And he said that I'm making there was one word that he used, but he was basically saying that you're being extremely bold and decisive in your actions. And I applaud you for it because no one else is doing stuff like this. And so every time I make radical adjustments to my life, I massively improve. And so now I'm going all in on this new phase, which is spirituality. I really believe that meditation, this is why I'm been meditating 3 times a day for the past couple months. No, past month. And I've been meditating at least 2 times a day for the past couple months. I've been meditating consistently for the past couple months. And recently I upped it to 3 times a day for 30 to 45 minutes per session. So I'm meditating for 90 to 2 hours every day. 90 minutes to 2 hours every single day. And this has purpose. This is my spiritual journey. And I'm also going to be learning about it in my books. This is the next phase. This is my radical shift. I'm starting it right now. Like I started it before this. I started reading those books that I listed, which are Die Wise, Come of Age, Ascent on Humanity, Tufti the Priestess, Journey Out of the Bodies, Dancing After the Music Stops, and what's the last one? The Egypt Code. All of these books are the next phase of my life. And that's why I'm starting it today. I already started it. These next books, at least. I've been meditating. But I probably won't be able to make the radical changes that I want to until I free up my entire schedule in 2 months. So after I graduate, I'll be able to make even more radical changes. But I am not going to stop. I'm making big radical changes now. I'm going to try my hardest to make the radical changes now, but if I have to hold off until I will, but I'm going to do it all now and see where it takes me. Radical changes are changing my schedule to have focus and rest days and buffer days. going all in on spirituality. And now I realize that I have to just worry. There's one quote that I heard that I read about in Eric Thane's book, Don't Create, Don't Capture. And he said, work on the messenger, not the message. Like, improve the messenger, not the message. And it basically means that don't work on your message that you're sending to your audience. Don't work on what I'm saying right now. Work on yourself. Like, work on yourself and grow yourself. Work on self-development and self-improvement. And so now that basically gave me permission to go all in. Now all I'm doing now, podcasting was my whole thing. Like, podcasting was my main priority in my day. Now it's going to be my main priority on the weekend. But now my main priority is studying all these books and meditating. That is all I'm going to be doing for the time being until further notice. Meditating and studying books and podcasting. Those are my meditation, studying books, podcasting are my 3 tasks for my 3 priorities. Those are the only things that I'm focusing on. The meditation and studying will be self-development, so I'll be growing as a person, and I'll be growing myself. And then the podcast is for documenting all of that, as well as finding my voice, so then I can document my growth. And you guys, the growth has been evident over the past 85 episodes, 85 days. My growth has been evident because in the beginning, literally the trailer, this is one thing that I might want to change, because my trailer, this season's trailer on my podcast is terrible, because that was the first episode I ever posted, the trailer. So I might make a new trailer so people actually hear better, have a better initial response, because usually the trailer is the first thing people listen to and they judge the quality of the show based off that. So that's one thing I might do, but I'm not going to do it for the time being. These radical changes are what has to be done in order to make massive progress. I'm going to be honest, that's all the notes that I wrote down. But that's another thing. Soon I'm going to be actually starting to kind of structure out the episodes. So the first 40 minutes of this episode was structured out. Not entirely. Most of it was just free balling. I don't know if that's the right word, but all I wrote down was spirituality and books and meditation for my structure. But let me get some water. I want to talk about this one concept that became clear to me today. I started reading the books, and one of the books that I read was Tufti. So as I've talked about in the past episodes, I'm reading all 7 at the same time. I just get the full pile stacked in front of me, and I pick up one, read till I lose focus, then put it down and read the next one until I lose focus, and then just cycle. And before this episode, I got through 3. I only had 30 minutes to read, but I got through 3, and I read the first couple pages of 3, which were Journey Out of the Bodies, Dancing After the Music Stops, and Tufti the Priestess. And in Tufti the Priestess, it's another book by Vadim Zeland. It's a more recent book by Vadim Zeland compared to Reality Transurfing, and it's about transurfing. And in the first couple pages, he talked about being asleep and being awake. And he described it very well in that. Essentially, we are asleep. In our dreams, we're asleep, and in reality, we're asleep. And when we're born and we're socialized, our parents basically say, look over here, look at that, focus on me, or focus on that. And that basically gets our focus onto something outer. So he explained that there's 2 types of focus, outer and inner. When you're lost in thought and you're just deep in thinking. You're asleep, and you're basically on your external actions are basically on autopilot, but you're asleep. That means that you're asleep because you're deep in inner, your attention is focused inwards. That's being asleep. But then the other side of it is when your attention is focused fully on outer, and you're immersed in the outer experience, like a certain event going on, or you're immersed in this podcast. That means that you're asleep as well. But then he described that most of the time we're either in one or the other, and very rarely we're in between both. And then he said that in order to wake up, you have to be kind of what's the word? Straddling the line of them both. So you have to be inner and outer. You have to be focused, your attention on inner and outer. So you have to hold your attention on your inner thoughts, like controlling your thoughts, as well as being present in the outer moment. And that's basically what being awake is. And when we were first born, we controlled our thoughts. And then over time, as like people said, focus on this, focus on that, we started to focus on outer, and then we started to focus on inner as well. And then we lost control. We started to not control our thoughts anymore, which basically brings me hope, because the fact that we lost like that, the ability to control our thoughts, or not even the ability, but the intent to control our thoughts atrophied. That basically shows me that we can actually reverse the process and strengthen it back again and regain the ability to control our thoughts, which I have proved over the past couple months. In the beginning of summer, when I first started reading Transurfing for the second time, I decided that it's actually vital to stay awake and work on being awake and present throughout the day. And so over the past, let's just say 4 months, I have been working on staying present. And over these four months, it's been like a long journey, but every single day it got better and better and better. And then eventually it just kind of became a habit. And right now I'm kind of in a situation where I'm not really sure if I have it as a habit to kind of bring back my thoughts to conscious awareness. I'm not sure if it's a habit or if I lost everything, because I don't really call myself to wake up anymore. Like I used to consciously say, wake up, wake up, wake up. I used to obsess over it. But now I haven't really done that much. I kind of just like wake up naturally, but I'm not sure how much throughout the day. But I do think that I am doing a lot more, like I'm conscious a lot more throughout the day, simply because my mind is a lot more clear, and I have this feeling that I'm getting closer and closer to my goals, and I'm locking in. Even though I haven't seen a single change in my environment, not a single change in my environment that I've noticed, but I have a sense that I'm getting closer. Not really. I think I just made that up, but I like to tell myself that. But these next books, I know that these are going to be game-changing for me, because these are like the top books that he recommends, and he has spirituality. All my life, I grew up in the church. Like, I grew up a Christian in the church. And I was always told, like, spirituality. I don't even know what spirituality is. I always said that I believed in God, but I didn't know. I was just lying just to fit in. I didn't know what that meant. And I was just lying. I got confirmed into the church. I had to basically say to the whole congregation that I believe in God. And I had to basically write a whole story of my, like, the one moment where I realized that God was real. That was all lies. It wasn't until I actually started to take my journey into my own hands and looked into Transurfing, which, by the way, I had no idea that Transurfing was going to talk about God. It wasn't until I realized I read Transurfing when I, like, decided not to be a Christian. I'm no longer a Christian. I don't go to church. And thankfully, my parents don't make me go to church anymore, or at least as the time being. And it wasn't until I started looking into this stuff and then I started meditating and I looked into this deep stuff, like the gateway experience, when I'm starting to uncover the truth. And I believe in God now, not just faking it anymore, but I don't know yet. And that's why I'm getting into the gateway experience. That's why I'm really going deep into spirituality, because today I read the most crazy thing. It was actually crazy, the thing that I read. And this was the thing that I was talking about earlier, the person documenting her Focus 10 experience, which was identical to my own, but then she also went on to talk about her Focus 12 experience, and then further down the post, Focus 15. And so I actually discovered this post last night on my computer, and then I copied and pasted it and put it in a Google Docs on my school account so I can actually access it on my school computer today, which was the next day, yesterday, because the school blocks a lot of websites. So I wanted to be able to read the post at school. So I read it at school, and the way she was talking, now, granted, she had a lot of experience. Like, she said that she had an experience either being or being with a Tibetan monk meditating. So she had a lot of experience on spirituality. And that's what I noticed. There was another woman that I read about who had been meditating for 15 years and then started the gateway experience. And then within a couple months, she was able to achieve like the final focus level that they offer in the gateway experience, like Focus 27. And so they had a lot of experience, but that's not stopping me because I have 1 month of experience with the gateway experience, with Wave 1. So I feel like within the next couple months, I'll be able to achieve Focus 12, Focus 15, hopefully. And the whole thing that I'm saying is that this woman, the first woman I'm talking about, which is the one I read today, she described her Focus 10, identical to mine, and her Focus 11. So her experience was absolutely insane. She got to, like, in the Focus 12 tape, in the intro to Focus 12, he has you go to Focus 10, and then he counts from 10 to 11. So he's like 10, 11, 12. But it's extremely long period in between each number. So it's like more like 10, and then he waits like a minute, and then it's 11, and then waits another minute, and then 12. And so she realized that there's actually amazing things to explore in between Focus 10 and 12, which is Focus 12 or Focus 11. And she like discovered the multiverse. She basically described her experience. Like, she saw the multiverse, which looks like a soap, like suds of soap or like a cobweb. And then she went on to explain a lot of different things that like absolutely blew my mind. And then towards the end of her whole post, after she was talking about like Focus 15 and all that stuff, she was saying like, the reason I share this is not so you can have an expectation of what to expect on your own, because your experience will not be the same. Your experience will be unique to you. And then she was basically going on to say that everyone's spiritual journey is their own, and it's just for them to experiment and for them to observe. No one else sees it, and no one else experiences your journey. And then she went on to say that she said this post to give inspiration and kind of like reignite the flame for some people to actually go with the gateway experience, because she thinks that she claimed that the gateway experience was like, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she like the general thing that she said was that the gateway experience allowed you to actually explore your divine essence. And she talked about how we are infinite. And after reading that, I was biking home, and I had this entire like mindset shift. Like, over the past couple of days, I was really spending a lot of thought energy thinking about my goal, like being in Hawaii. I was like thinking about it a lot, especially during my meditations. And then after reading that, I was just in this completely different perspective. Like, all of a sudden, the goal didn't really matter as much anymore. Like, all of a sudden, now the next thing that I really need to get into is spirituality. Yes, I still want to achieve the goal, but now everything in life just kind of seems less significant, or it just feels like I'm a lot more. It kind of feels like I had these different thoughts. Like this one thought popped into my mind where we're infinite beings. So, and then she also said our souls are immortal. And so when I was cooking earlier today, I had this thought creeped into my mind. It was like, so since we're immortal, maybe we are experiencing life just to have a perspective and to actually start to, maybe we live in life so we can more appreciate being infinite. Like maybe if we were infinite beings, then we decided to go into life to experience the finite so we can better appreciate being infinite. Maybe we lost our appreciation for the infinite. Maybe I'm just making a bunch of stuff up, but the point is that I started thinking differently after this one post, and I started thinking bigger thoughts and different things. And I had a different perspective around me too. Like today during my gym class, every Tuesday we go to the ice rink and we skate. And so we were playing soccer on the ice, which was actually so fun. And I was the only person on my team that was really doing anything. And then there was 2 girls on the other team that were very good figure skaters. And this one girl in the beginning of the class, I really this one girl is cute. And so I was you know how it goes. I thought that she was cute, but I never really talked to her. And then today we were me and her were literally just going at it back and forth because we were on opposite teams and we were the only 2 people that could actually play. And so we were basically going at it back and forth. I was defending and then she was defending all this. And it got to the point where it was getting we almost fell in, we kind of fell into each other and all this stuff. And she was high five and all this stuff. A couple months ago, if that would have happened to me, I would have been thinking about that experience and her literally for the rest of the week. But lately, also the fact that I put girls in the energy conversion box and I have this affirmation of I'm a man with high standards when it comes to women. Ever since those 2, as well as, just those 2, I am not really thinking too much about her or girls in general that are in my school or in my town, because I know that I have higher standards and I want the girl that I really want to spend my energy on will be my future wife, which is not anyone at this school that I go to. And so that's another part that spirituality and meditation has actually helped me so much, clearing my mind. And yes, meditation is good, but doing exercises during meditation, I feel this was one of my mistakes. I would just meditate and simply just clear my thoughts, just focus on my breath for many months. And even I've been meditating inconsistently for the past maybe 2 years or 1 year. But it wasn't until and also since I started meditating consistently over summer break, I was just focusing on my breath and literally just sitting there in silence, which is good. But once I started the Gateway experience and actually implementing these tools and using them practically, like the energy conversion box, that actually started to change things in me. In the intro to Focus 12, the beginning, Robert Monroe basically says these exercises can help you to induce changes in yourself, and you can use these tools to make changes in yourself. And I've realized that this actually does make changes, because now I have higher standards for girls and women. And not only that, I'm just not thinking too, I feel my mind is stronger, because especially when I was conditioned on TikTok, I used to watch TikTok and my mind was weak, and I would literally just, the sight of a girl would just make my mind race. And I would just constantly think about that girl, especially if I had just a normal interaction with her. Let's say I just said hello, or she said hello. Like just a normal interaction, I would race. My mind would race. And today's interaction was like crazy. Like we were like ice skating, and like we bumped. Like we were like, I like ran into her on accident, and we were like literally going at it on the rink, and then we high-fived and all this stuff. My mind would have raced, and to be honest, my mind did race a little bit, but I was able to control it. And now I'm like, I'm not even thinking about it. But like that's the power of meditation, and this is why I really believe that I'm like right now I really like that concept of how strong my mind is. Like on TikTok, my mind was weak. Now my mind is like moderately weak. So I'm trying to strengthen it because then I'll be capable of doing a lot more things. But that's it. To wrap things up, don't forget to download your favorite episodes and subscribe to the Ascend Momentum Show. But before you guys leave, make sure to look up at the sky.